Hi, you're watching India Post Live, India's first web TV news conversation online. I'm Shivraj, and today we're discussing how the Akhilesh Yadav government in Uttar Pradesh is having to now change its priorities after announcing an ambitious project of giving 15 lakh students free laptops. They now say that they will look at their priorities again. You too can join in on that conversation by logging on to our website, indiapostlive.com. You can also tweet with us, #IndiaPostLive. Well, in the recent budget in the Legislative Assembly in Uttar Pradesh, Akhilesh Yadav's government said that they were going to look at their priorities again after the failure of the project to provide laptops to almost every school student. They're saying that they're going to focus on other welfare schemes. Let's take a look.
It was termed the flagship scheme of UP Chief Minister Akhilesh Yadav when he promised free laptops and tablets to students in the state. But 2 years down the line, and he seems to have forgotten all about it, or at least pretends to let it go by. The Samajwadi Party government spent close to rupees 10,000 crores on free laptops, unemployment allowance and girl child allowance. Of this, almost half was spent on distributing free laptops to 14 lakh students over 2 years. The government's focus is now on power, agriculture, roads and urban development. The much hyped laptop scheme has been given a quiet burial. So has Akhilesh finally woken up to the futility of doling out freebies?
Well, to discuss the implications of that, we're joined in studio by the Associate Editor of Frontline, Venkatesh Raman, and we're also joined via Google Hangout by Sunita Aaron, the resident editor of the Hindustan Times. Sunita, you've written a book on Akhilesh Yadav, The Winds of Change, the great promise that he came in with. But clearly the schemes that he announced, the rollout of up to 3,000 crores and handing out laptops to students, all that didn't really hold him in good stead in the Lok Sabha elections eventually.
Yeah, and I think that's the reason that he realized that till you provide basics like roti, kapda and makan and roads, you can't actually get political dividends. Laptops alone, I think it was not a very bad scheme. It needed to be tweaked a little because they covered every student. And if you want to reduce the digital divide in the society, in the state like Uttar Pradesh, then perhaps he could have focused on children coming from poor families instead of giving it to each and every person. But there was a lot of opposition to this laptop move within the party, and there was criticism from the opposition. And in politics, it's good to have a relook at your priorities, and I think the state needs electricity, the state needs roads, the state needs water. So it's not a bad idea, I think, for some time to keep it on hold. He has not abandoned it totally, completely, is a token grant that he has given. But I think it's a good step, a welcome step. I'll have a look at it like this.
All right. But Venkatesh, right from the very beginning, like Sunita said, there's opposition from within the party. But the big question is, what about all the money that was supposed to go towards purchasing these laptops? There's almost silence there. There seems to be no real answer from the Akhilesh Yadav government of where the money was actually spent, because from what we gather, a lot of the laptops were not really paid for.
Well, I have no information on the payment part of it. But as far as the budgeting for that laptop scheme, as well as the costing for the laptop scheme, that was fairly transparent. I mean, in fact, that is one of the first things that the Akhilesh Yadav government did. And contrary to the general practice that you have in Uttar Pradesh, you had for the first time tender scheme which was fairly, transparent and open, which was open to public scrutiny. And generally, the way the scheme was launched and implemented was considered to be above board. But having said that, again, as Sunita very rightly pointed out, whether this was the right priority for a state like Uttar Pradesh. Of course, Akhilesh Yadav's ascent to the Chief Minister's position signified a rise in aspirational values of a state like Uttar Pradesh, which is considered to be part of the Bimaru states for a long time. But again, whether doling out laptops, whether taking laptops to these places and distributing it, whether that was the only measure that you could have done to kind of look at these aspirational values, that is one aspect. The other aspect is, when you have a scheme like this, whether what is the kind of returns, social returns that you need to get.
Exactly, because if you look at another parallel, Nitish Kumar handing out cycles, that made sense on the ground level, didn't it?
No, interestingly, the cycle scheme was also introduced in India for the first time by a Samajwadi Party government. It was introduced by Akhilesh Yadav's father, Mulayam Singh Yadav, during his earliest stint as Chief Minister. And Nitish Kumar has actually, taken a leaf out of Mulayam Singh Yadav's book. But again, the way this whole project was, communicated to the people, the way it was publicized in the media, I think there has been a world of difference between Nitish Kumar's approach and Mulayam Singh's approach. Now look at this conversation. I mean, ideally you should have somebody from the Samajwadi Party explaining the reasons for
for rescinding.
For rescinding. But then you must have tried to get somebody, but then there's no presence of the Samajwadi Party here. So I think the problem with Samajwadi Party is not only in devising the right kind of political schemes or welfare schemes, but also in kind of promoting it and kind of publicizing it in the right manner.
Absolutely. And Sunita, that's the next question, because even when they launched the scheme, there was a bit of back and forth between them and the BSP, where they try to play down this, there was this charge that the BSP saw laptops as toys, and so it got to that level, and it wasn't really communicated to the public at large as to what benefits this scheme would have.
No, I think initially they did it. As a young leader, when he came on the scene, he wanted to do it because he's very tech savvy himself. He wanted to do it, and I think it was a good scheme which was picked up by Rajasthan and other states also. But, and as for the laptops, and there was a lot of transparency, I agree with him there. People did tinker with it, and some of them went, they couldn't use it. There are other problems. But you see, in a state where you have limited funds, either you can spend them on parks and statues, or you spend them on freebies, or you spend them on creating infrastructure. Now you have to decide your priorities. Mayawati did. She decided to spend whatever amount she had, whatever fund she had, she decided to build parks and statues. In return, what she got a defeat. Now here, when Akhilesh came on the scene, he said, okay, I'm a young person, I'm going to give unemployment allowance, I'm going to give laptops, tablets, and all type of freebies. But that didn't help. The youngsters went and voted to Modi. They took the laptops from here and went. Now, if you're giving a freebie, you should not expect anything in return. I think it is very wrong if politically it doesn't suit you. So you decide. I think there is a realization within the party, because Akhilesh went to different constituencies. He met people there, and everybody said, we don't have a road, we don't have water, we don't have electricity. So in the long run, I think freebies don't pay.
Right.
It's the infrastructure that you create, and you have seen it with in South also, where I think your Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister had done and nothing happened. You have seen in other states also that freebies is not the solution, not the only solution.
Okay, so we do also have a BJP voice. Sanjeev Singh joins us from the IT cell of the BJP. Sanjeev, your reactions to Akhilesh Yadav's budget speech, where they're rescinding the scheme to hand out laptops to students.
See, it was expected. See, this was a farcical scheme which he had launched by their election manifesto, election 2012. What they did, they promised this dole in anticipation of votes, which they did get in 2012 elections. And then subsequently, since they did not get any votes in Lok Sabha elections, and it is quite obvious, one of their ministers made a statement, कि साहब इसको देने से क्या फायदा, हमने तो दिया और हमको वोट नहीं मिला. And that is the reason why they wanted to, withdraw. Their ministers were vouching for withdrawal of this scheme. Now, if you look at even the scheme, per se, they had promised laptops to 12th pass out students and tablets to 10th pass out students.
Right.
Now it envisaged something like 20 lakh laptops to be distributed, of which they were able, in full 2 years, they weren't able to distribute even 15 lakh laptops. And as you had posed that query to Venkatesh ji, they have not even paid for those, 15 lakh odd laptops which they have supposedly distributed.
But Sanjeev, would you say that the idea behind the scheme, the fact that he was trying to bridge the digital divide, to try and bring all these students within what most urban centers are enjoying, is access to the great digital world, do you think the idea was correct?
idea would have been correct provided it was bundled with computer-based tutorial, learning material, educational, material bundled into the laptop along with a, subsidized or a low-cost internet connection along with the laptop. Because that was not there, so it was, as I said, it was a farcical scheme with a specific objective of fetching votes, which it, did to them in 2012 and failed to do that in 2014.
So, Venkatesh, do you believe that that is really the failure? I mean, you can hand out things, but to provide the entire ecosystem around it. So handing out cycles, for instance, made complete sense. But here it was just token handing out of laptops, and it really backfired on the Akhilesh Yadav government.
Yeah, I mean, backfiring is not because it was not comprehensively thought of. I mean, basically what one would see whenever a government gets into the freebie business, it is not linking it to real social development or real economic development. I mean, that perspective is not there. The freebie is generally given out, thinking that that it will give you immediate political returns, and it doesn't happen that way. So, as Sanjeev very rightly pointed out, the larger infrastructure climate should have been built up. There should have been some focus on that. Did not have to have been in such a huge scale. It could have been in a piloted in a short, small place, and then you could have taken it by step into various other parts. But then that kind of prospective planning is not generally seen in the political class per se, and when it comes to these regional party outfits, it's more so.
Absolutely. We're also joined online by Darshan Desai, who's the assistant editor of Mail today. Darshan, we're discussing the fact that the Akhilesh Yadav government is now having second thoughts about the entire scheme of handing out laptops to school students. And there's been a debate on perhaps the process in itself not being effective enough. And seeing how they fared in the Lok Sabha elections, it seems only logical that they should move back from it.
Yeah, I would agree with you. See, there are a couple of things here. One is that when you make a promise like that, you should be absolutely equipped to deliver on it. Because that's a very big promise, and if you don't deliver on it, it naturally backfires. That is the first thing. Second thing is that if you have the real intentions of empowering the youth, you would not make an announcement like that, but instead you would impart free computer literacy training to the youngsters who cannot access computers. Okay, and then maybe make soft, easy loans available to youngsters to buy those computers, and maybe when government buys it in bulk, it obviously gets it at a very subsidized rate. So that is even more feasible economically for the government, and that actually helps empower the youngsters. In this case, neither has it helped you politically.
So it's just really a populist move, really, at that point of time.
Hello.
So it really was just a populist move at that point of time.
Exactly, and it has not helped them either way, in terms of politics, in terms of getting votes, or in terms of empowering youngsters.
Right. Sunita,
so you ended up nowhere. And that's why now you are looking at the financial pressure that this scheme imposes on the government.
All right. Interestingly enough, Sunita alluded to the southern states. Now, in Tamil Nadu, for instance, the handouts have actually been effective and worked. Why is that?
No, handouts have not worked for all the governments. Like, for example, the Dravida Munnetra government, the government which preceded the Jayalalitha government, the handouts, the freebies did not work for them. I mean, they gave everything from television sets to grinding machines to whatnot. But that didn't work for them. I mean, ultimately, when it came to the election situation, they also started giving handouts in cash. But then that didn't work out. But again, coming to the Jayalalitha government, what I feel is that both the Jayalalitha government as well as the Patnaik government in Odisha, both of them have come out with this freebie scheme with a plan for infrastructural, building up an infrastructural climate that is positive, and also kind of have calibrated their neoliberal economic thrust with these kind of social welfare schemes which are effective on the ground. Like, for example, the latest initiative of the Jayalalitha government of giving medicines, at subsidized rates to the poor people on the basis of the ration cards and the below the poverty line, cards. It's a big hit in Tamil Nadu. It's called the Amma Dispensary, and it's again, it's a new initiative. So as long as there is some thought going into this scheme, and the freebies are kind of accompanied with the larger plan for and larger perspective for the
as long as it makes sense, and are effective enough to show some sort of impact, social impact.
As long as it makes sense, and as long as it's a kind of comprehensive plan which takes into consideration various aspects of a social issue. When it is not just a freebie, just which has been brought out cynically and being implemented without real thought to it. I think that's a fundamental difference.
Absolutely. And Darshan, I think the hustings really were a verdict on the fact that it was ineffective. But Akhilesh Yadav is being dogged by not just opposition from outside, but from within as well. His own father not letting him roll out schemes the way they're meant to be. So I think we don't have Darshan, but I think that's also been the biggest.
Can you come again, please? Can you come again, please?
So what we were saying is that I think the biggest problem with Akhilesh Yadav was not just the fact that his schemes were not well thought out, but he was also facing opposition not just from outside, but within the party, also from his own father, and that perhaps was the biggest inhibitor for him to really roll out schemes the way he was hoping to.
See, this is the same problem that Mayawati faced. You know what Mayawati did in 2007? She got a big majority in Uttar Pradesh. Some 20 years for the first time, a single-party government was formed. And from the very day itself, she was dreaming of becoming the Prime Minister. So she started traveling across the country, and she abrogated the government to a few ministers and a few bureaucrats. Okay, instead, if you look at the Nitish Kumar model, or if you look at the Narendra Modi model, or maybe even Shivraj Singh Chauhan model, they stuck to their roots, or they stuck to their own corners, and they built it up from there. Okay, and Mayawati, instead of building up UP, she went out of the state to travel and do things. If she had initiated even two, three big bang initiatives, it would have made a huge difference.
Right.
Similarly, Akhilesh Singh Yadav got a huge majority, even bigger than Mayawati, and they had this opportunity to build on that. Instead of building on that, they went back to the old ways of the Samajwadi Party government.
Okay. Right.
So
fair enough.
So it affects it. It runs through not only laptop schemes; it runs through all schemes like that.
Sure, and I think there is a point that Darshan's making is that Akhilesh Yadav himself didn't come in with a mandate on his own. It was the own machinery of Mulayam Singh Yadav's Samajwadi Party. But the fact remains is that on ground he was unable to really roll out what he wanted to.
No, absolutely. Basically, whatever one might say, the last assembly elections was essentially a vindication of the political personality of Akhilesh Yadav. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Mulayam Singh Yadav may have contributed, but it was a kind of reflection of the kind of aspirational value that Uttar Pradesh society had, and especially the young people in Uttar Pradesh would have. And it is also a fact that on a day-to-day basis, Akhilesh Yadav was not allowed to implement his agenda, both by the problems that he had within the party, within the family, within the government, with people like Azam Khan taking on directly, and also because of, I would say, because of his own limitations in terms of imagination and creativity. I'm sure that Sunita would be able to throw more light on this.
Sunita, I think, your book talking about winds of change, there was great hope when Akhilesh Yadav came in. What do you think is the big gap from then and now?
Law and order. Simple. Governance.
Okay.
You see, what happened is that 2007, it's not that 2012 people voted for, this hope factor worked in 2007 also. But when Mayawati came with a majority government, she failed on certain fronts. What are the people asking for if you look at it? They're asking for basics. and the basics were not given. She said, okay, you take dignity, but I deprive you of basics. So she went away. Akhilesh came. He was a young face, fresh face, and he was targeting the younger audience. And he said, okay, I give you, let's have a progressive manifesto. He went for a progressive manifesto, but his party is still stuck in old problems. The legacy is such that caged him totally. Now, again, the problem happened that law and order is something which they couldn't handle. Muzaffarnagar riots happened. So he won 2012 on laptops. 2014 he lost. It is primarily because of law and order, less because of laptops. I don't think so. Laptops is a reason for him to lose the 2014. It was a Modi wave. Modi wave in which youngsters they plonked for Modi. So it was a national election. It was not a state election in which, Akhilesh was a contender or something. His father was a contender for the prime minister's chair. So you have Mulayam Singh Yadav vis-a-vis Modi.
Sort of overshadowing.
He was a very attractive face and if you look at Gujarat, I don't think so. Narendra Modi's politics has been freebies driven. Even Rajasthan, where they distributed free medicines and everything, what happened? Gehlot went away and she came back. So whichever state has experimented with freebies, they don't work in the long run. They will only work when people they have enough, they are not hungry, they are not living in
the basic issues.
Darkness, they have a road they can travel on. Then only a laptop or a cycle or other freebies would help.
Okay, and I believe Darshan Desai has a question to also ask.
You asked me something?
No, I believe our other guest, Darshan Desai, who joined us, and you have a question, Darshan, as well?
Hello.
All right. We seem to have a problem with that line, but just wrapping it up, I mean, Sunita is saying that it's about the basic issues of governance, and the Lok Sabha elections was a clear verdict. Do you think that Akhilesh Yadav, especially Mulayam Singh Yadav, really get to see the larger picture, or they're going to still be caught up in the kind of politics that they've been caught up in?
Well, I would not hazard a guess at this point of time. I would wait for another 3 months to see what kind of political correction they would make. If you go by the track record of both Mulayam Singh Yadav and the Samajwadi Party, I mean, Akhilesh Yadav does not have much of a track record at this point of time, though he has been a member of parliament for 3 terms, 4 terms, Sunita. More than 2 terms certainly. His political track record, but in the Samajwadi Party as well as Mulayam Singh Yadav are people who have political creativity of their own accord. I mean, as Mayawati also does have their own political creativity. So I would not put beyond them a kind of course correction and kind of coming back to some kind of political grips of the situation. But then it's too early to make a prediction.
All right. Thank you very much, Venkatesh. Thank you, Sunita, and thank you, Sanjeev, for joining in on the show. You can also continue the conversation by logging on to our website, indiapostlive.com. Continue tweeting with us, #IndiaPostLive. Thank you for watching.